Hi everybody, it's Laura again from Balbriggan Library with another story time. The smartest giant in town. This is such a great story. I hope you're going to enjoy it. This is all about a big giant and all the people he gets to know. George was a giant, the scruffiest giant in town. He always wore the same pair of old brown sandals and the same patched up gown. I wish I wasn't the scruffiest giant in town, he said sadly. Now, poor old George does look a bit scruffy, doesn't he? We've got to be honest. So what does he decide to do? One day George noticed a new shop full of smart clothes, so he thought, right, I'll buy a smart shirt, a pair of trousers, a belt, stripy tie, socks, and shiny new shoes. Now I'm the smartest giant in town, he said. He does look smart. He left his old clothes behind in the shop and was about to go home when he heard a sound. On the pavement stood a giraffe, sniffing sadly. What's the matter? Asked George. It's my neck, said the giraffe. So very long and so very cold. I wish I had a long, warm scarf. Look at the purr. He does have a long neck and it does look pretty cold. So what does George do? Cheer up, said George, and he took off his stripy tie. It didn't match my socks anyway, he said, and he wound it around the giraffe's neck, and it made a wonderful scarf. Thank you, said the giraffe. As George strode towards home, he sang to himself. My tie is a scarf for a cold giraffe, but look me up and down, I'm the smartest giant in town. George came to a river. On a boat stood a goat who was bleating loudly. What's the matter? Asked George. It's my sail, said the goat. It blew away in a storm. I wish I had a strong new sail for my boat. Oh, he does have a problem there, doesn't he? Oh no, look at his sail. It's destroyed. What do you think George is going to do? I have an idea. Cheer up, said George, and he took off his new white shirt. Yes, his shirt, I know. It kept coming untucked anyway, he said, and he tied it to the mast of the goat's boat, and it made a magnificent sail. Thank you, said the goat. It's a pretty good sail, isn't it? I think so. George strode on, singing to himself. My tie is a scarf for a cold giraffe. My shirt's on a boat as a sail for a goat. But look me up and down, I'm the smartest giant in, you say it now, town. That's right. Now you've got to join in with the rest of this story. Everybody hear me? George came to a tiny ruined house. Inside the house stood a white mouse with a load of baby mice. They're all squeaking. What's the matter? Asked George. It's our house, squeaked Mother Mouse. It burnt down. We have nowhere to live. Wish we had a nice new house. All those poor mice. Oh dear me. Now, what do you think George is going to do? Have you got an idea? Cheer up, said George. And he took off, that's right, one of his shiny new shoes. It was giving me blisters anyway, he said. The mouse and her baby scrambled inside. The shoe made a perfect home for them. Thank you, they all squeaked. Squeak, squeak. George had to hop down the road now, but he didn't mind. And as he hopped, he sang to himself. My tie is a scarf for a cold giraffe. My shirt's on a boat as a sail for a goat. My shoe is a house for a little white mouse. But look me up and down, I'm the smartest giant in town. That's right. Now George has come to a campsite. Beside a tent stood a fox who was crying. What's the matter? Asked George. It's my sleeping bag, said the fox. I dropped it in a puddle. I wish I had a warm, dry sleeping bag. Look at this poor fox with his wet sleeping bag. He's quite a smart fox, isn't he? Chirp, said George, and he took off, you guessed it, one of his socks with diamonds up the side. It was tickling my toes anyway, he said. The fox snuggled in. It made a great sleeping bag. Thank you, said the fox. George hopped on, singing to himself. My tie is a scarf for a cold giraffe. My shoe is a house for a little white mouse. My shirt's on a boat as a sail for a goat. One of my socks is a bed for a fox. But look me up and down, I'm the smartest giant in town. Very good, everybody. George came to a big squelchy bog. Beside the bog stood a dog who was howling. What's the matter? Asked George. It's this bog, said the dog. I need to get across. I keep getting stuck. I wish there was a safe dry path. Chip, said George, and he took off his, yes, you guessed it, smart new belt. It was squashing my tummy anyway, he said, and he laid it down over the bog. Made an excellent path. Thank you, said the dog. Look, off he goes across on the belt. Perfect. The wind started to blow now, but George didn't mind. He hopped on, singing to himself. My tie is a scarf for a cold giraffe. My shirt's on a boat as a sail for a goat. My shoe is a house for a little white mouse. One of my socks is a bed for a fox. My belt helped a dog who was crossing a bog. But my trousers are falling down. I'm the coldest giant in town. Uh-oh. Suddenly George felt sad and shivery and not really smart at all. He stood on one foot and he thought, I'll have to go back to the shop and I'll have to buy some more clothes. Turned around and he hopped all the way back to the shop. But when he got there, it was closed. Oh no! Oh no, cried George. He sank down onto the doorstep and a tear ran down his eye. He felt as sad as all the animals he had met on his journey. Then, out of the corner of his eye, he saw a bag with something familiar poking out of the top. George took a closer look. My gown, he yelled. My dear old gown and sandals. George put them on. They felt wonderfully comfortable. Look, I am the cosiest giant in town, he cried, and he danced all the way home. Outside his door stood all the animals he had helped. They were carrying an enormous present. Come on, George, they said, open it. George untied the ribbon, and inside was a beautiful gold paper crown and a card. Look inside the card, George, said the animals. George put the crown on, and he opened the card, and inside it said, your tie is a scarf for a cold giraffe. Your shirt's on a boat as a sail for a goat. Your shoe is a house for a little white mouse. One of your socks is a bed for a fox. Your belt helped a dog who was crossing a bog. So, here is a very fine crown to go with the sandals and gown of the kindest giant in town. Isn't that lovely? So nice to receive. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you soon.